So, Senator, it's hard to believe that it's been 40 years since the Dallas Women's Foundation was formed. Maybe let's go back for those 40 years. This would be about 1985 or 84, 85. How did this whole thing start? Did a bunch of women just get on the phone and call each other and say, hey, let's get together for a meeting? Do you remember how it started?
Oh,
the
I do.
Idea?
I definitely do, because Helen Hunt Hendricks is the one who was the spark plug. And she was so wonderful, and she just had a vision that we needed to help women and girls in so many areas where they weren't getting that special attention. That was 1984, 85. And she had a vision. So she called some of her friends, and some of them reached out, and it formed kind of the first group, the board. And I happily said yes, because I loved the cause. And I remember the first big luncheon. We were all so excited. It was something new, and to have such a turnout and so many women that wanted to do more for other girls and women. So it just took off right away. And I do remember Helen in the first early meetings and what she laid out as her vision.
Wow. Those early luncheons were really fun. I went to a lot of the ones at the beginning, and fortunately, they just kept raising more money year to year. And we would focus on the things that helped women and girls, and we would give that money back. In your political life, you've probably seen a lot of key issues and things you've done for women and girls that have affected our women and girls in Texas. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yes, certainly. And that was one of the reasons that when Helen spoke up and said we need to do more in these areas, I totally agreed. Because when I was elected to the legislature in 1972 and up to 76, we found it was myself and 4 Democratic women. It was the first time we'd ever had 5 women in the state legislature out of 150 in the House, and we were 5. I was the only Republican, and the 4 Democrats. And we came together on women's issues and started righting some of the wrongs in our state. For instance, equal credit rights for women. We back in the 70s, you had to have your husband's signature to get a credit card or to get a loan. And we corrected that so that there would not be that kind of barrier. And then Sarah Weddington and I came together for women who had been raped. The victims of sexual violence were very unequally treated in the justice system. And so we got together and wrote legislation, which was strongly supported by Republicans and Democrats, even though there were 5 of us out of 150. And that law that we passed in Texas in 1974, I think, was then the model for other states. They started seeing what we were doing, and the women who were being elected in their legislatures looked at our bill, and virtually every state followed along that same line to make sure that rape victims were not discriminated against in the justice system. And so when Helen Hendricks came up and said that we should be doing more for women in the economic area, as well as health and all of the things that would allow women to take part in our not only our society, but our economy, I loved it. So that was an easy yes for me.
Well, over the 40 years, and how we've evolved, other issues have come up for women and girls. healthcare, for example, education, housing, and you still see all of this as a lot of restrictions for. It's really, really not helping women at all, especially in our state. Do you still see all of these issues still as top issues for women?
Well, I think that women now have come so far in education, for instance, and the college graduates. When I was in law school, there were 13 women out of 1,500. You know, it was very uncommon that women would be in law school, and that was through out. It was in healthcare, it was in medicine, it was in finance. And so I think we've come a long way now. But I also think we have to always be cognizant of where there is a gap that needs to be filled. For instance, when I went to the Senate, one of the gaps I had experienced as a single woman having a job and being able to contribute to an IRA. And when I then got married and didn't have a job for a while, I couldn't continue to contribute to my IRA. And I said, wait a minute, why is that? Because you had to have earnings to have an IRA. So I passed a legislation when I was in the Senate, and it was very bipartisan. Republican and Democratic women came together and said, of course, a stay-at-home spouse should have the same opportunities for retirement security. And mostly that was women, but now, of course, we have more men who are stay-at-home spouses, and the women are the earners. And so it's really become an advantage for stay-at-home moms or dads, and allowing them to have that retirement security. Because if you lose your spouse or you get divorced, you want that nest egg that you can best get by starting early. And so the women band together on that in the Senate. So I think there's a lot that we always need to be aware of because of our own experiences, and then try to make sure that we are helping in an area that isn't well covered.
Well, I know that you have heard of the research that our foundation does every couple of years. It serves as a guide for all of the things that we do in our foundation, going back to healthcare and education and housing and the different seminars that we have for women on philanthropy, etc. This research has really helped us as a guide, and I know that you probably have some thoughts on that as far as how we've evolved the last 40 years.
Oh, I think the research that the foundation has done in that area has made such a difference. That's how you find out what is missing. And to have the real data is a great service that the foundation is doing. And of course, the fact that so many women are now joined to be givers into the community where we can help women and girls, having that data that guides us into the areas that we might not have covered very well. And I think it's great that the foundation has made that one of its signature efforts.
You know, we've talked about some of the lunches we've had over the years, but let's talk about the first one we had, which would have been 40 years ago. We netted 50,000. And we netted 25,000 that first year. That is just amazing. That's just amazing to me. And that was 40 years ago. Of course, now we look at that as like nothing because we've done so well over the years. But I know you and I went to a lot of the early lunches. They were packed, jam-packed at major hotels here in town, and with keynote speakers. So we still are doing them, and I, we still want to see you at some of those in the future.
Well, I think it is amazing when you look back at that first lunch and where we thought that was such a big deal to
Yes.
to have $25,000 to actually start putting out into the community. And now, though, when you look back at 40 years, and I've been told that the foundation has given almost $90 million to issues that affect women and girls. It's really inspiring, just amazing.
It is. And our expansion now being the Texas Women's Foundation, going from the Dallas Women's Foundation to the Texas Women's Foundation. And as I think that you'll agree that this is really what's helped others in other states, has helped them form foundations, and using our model. We're really proud to say that many of them have looked at us to guide them to the future. So
truly, it is. It's a great thing for us to start and see that other states are now picking up that model is great, because when we all are together, we can do so much good.
Any last thoughts you have on what it's meant to you, of how we've evolved, come along the last 40 years?
Well, first of all, Laura, thank you for staying with it for 40 years, because you were just a kid back then, and coming to the first lunch and being in that first group that began, the young women coming in and saying, what can we do? And not being put off by the fact that their contribution seems small, but put together, it's so big. And so I love how things have turned out. I love, I have been kind of gone. I moved to Brussels for 4 years to be at NATO. So I've kind of lost touch with some of the things that I worked on early. But I think it is a great thing for Dallas that our great women have band together for these major issues. The Cohen Foundation did that as well. That was another group of women, many of whom also were in the Dallas Women's Foundation beginning. But it was that sense that we could come together and do things that maybe our husbands hadn't done or hadn't been interested in, but we were interested. And so I love that we fought breast cancer together and have had so many cures, and that we are looking at economic issues like how our young girls can go into the marketplace, how they can do better at promoting themselves and showing what they can do, and mostly the education that has now been afforded to our girls to really do anything in science, engineering, medicine, law, finance. I mean, the world is open. And
it's open.
Yeah, it is. And so thank you for staying in there. And I know the other women who are being interviewed for this 40th anniversary are really showing the things that can be done when we come together. So thank you for that.
Well, Senator, we want to thank you. And we have truly been blessed to have your support all of these years. Even if you've gone away, come back, gone away, come back.
That's
we
what
know
I
you
do.
have had important things to do, and we appreciate that. But see, here we are 40 years later, and we're still talking about how well we've evolved. So we thank you for your support.
Well, I'll look forward to coming to a future luncheon. I can't this year, but I will hopefully soon.